welcome to this 108th workshop of Madhwacharya for youth. Isn't technology a blessing right now? Without having to dare this weather, the rains outside, all of us are sitting in the comfort of our homes and enjoying this insightful workshop this evening. Today, the topic is ancient heroes and modern challenges. Stories of inspiration from our scriptures. Of course, who doesn't like stories? From young to old, we all love to listen to stories. Of course, stories are considered the most powerful tool. Our scriptures, our epics are a treasure house of stories. A profound message in these stories are not just for this yuga, but for all the yugas. It goes to prove that they're applicable to our lives even today. For example, one of my observations during this lockdown period was the Ramayana and the Mahabharata, which was being telecast, and it was the most sought after stories. Don't we all know what happens in Ramayana and Mahabharata? Still we revisit the stories because every time we listen, we have something new to learn from them. Today's session is not just stories, but stories that have been carefully selected, compiled under various values to maximize our learning. To name a few, story of Kunti, giving us the understanding of purpose. Stories of Vibhishana and Arjuna to explain the need of right choices. Sudama's story to understand giving. Nachiketa for the pursuit, and many, many more. We even have something to learn from stories of Hiranyaksha and Ravana. The speaker this evening is none other than Dr. Sundar Madhwacharya, who has put tremendous effort in researching, compiling, and presenting these stories to us. Here is a brief introduction of Dr. Sundar. He is the head of marketing at Adobe India. Over the past 25 years, he has worked with various companies in senior executive positions. He also teaches at leading institutions such as IIMB, Harvard, Columbia Business School as a passionate hobby. He has been studying Indian philosophy under the tutelage of Sri Vyasanakere Prabhanjanacharya and Dr. Shrikantacharya Bayari. He has authored book on life and works of Sri Vadiraja Tirtharu, published by Sri Sode Vadiraja Mutt, Udupi. He has been a volunteer with Sri Madhwacharya for Youth since its inception. Please note, if you have any questions regarding the workshop, you can type the same in the comment section on Facebook and YouTube. Dr. Sundar will respond to them accordingly. Dr. Sundar, wish you a very, very warm welcome to this session. Over to you.
Thank you, Ramya. Acharya Acharyani Chabanati Shishaha Devi Mangala Devata. Today is indeed a very special day for all of us. Last time we had seen a very unique workshop where we took people through the tenets, the basic tenets of Madhva philosophy. But today we are here to see how that philosophy actually epitomizes in the minds of the people. So I'm going to be a little fidgety today because I have to move between a few screens. Please have patience when I'm doing this as we sort of move along. So, in the 100th workshop that we did, it was all about living with confidence. So just a bit of a background about our workshop. So when we said in the 100th workshop, many of you who had been part of that would know that we had talked about living with confidence as a theme for this workshop. How do you know, how do you live, and how do you thrive in this workshop? And living with the confidence was a theme that we had picked. We had talked about 5 mindsets that we need to develop, 5 habits that we need to inculcate. So building on this, which was a part of the 100th workshop, The last workshop that we did, which was the 107th workshop, we looked at a beautiful summary of what Madhva philosophy is all about, which actually explains the 9 truths of God's creation. So we read this shloka, Shriman Madhvamate Hariparataraha, in detail, which explains what our philosophy is all about and how we can understand God's creation in its entirety by understanding this shloka. So we made a beginning there, but this is philosophy. We need to see philosophy in action, and that is why the current workshop, which explains these 9 tenets in the form of stories. Let us come to the topic today, which is ancient heroes and modern challenges. If you see in today's world, there is stress and anxiety everywhere. What are the main challenges that we face? We feel lack of energy. We feel heaviness all around us. No matter what we have and how much we get, we have a feeling of failing. We feel like failures. Clearly when we compare ourselves to our ancestors, we have achieved much more economically. We have achieved much more scientifically. We have achieved much more in many, many fields of science. Yet, mankind today feels like we have failed. There is a lack of sense of direction. You ask anybody, most people say, I am very confused. I don't know what career I should choose. I don't know where I should live. I don't know what kind of house I should buy. What should be my values? Who is there to guide me? There's a lot of distraction. We oftentimes blame digital media for distraction, but that's not true. There is distraction happening everywhere, even without the digital medium. Of course, the digital media might have added to it, but that's not the cause of our distraction. We feel a sense of frustration. Everybody wants to do something else, but is ending up doing something else. And that is not giving the kind of feeling and happiness that is needed. And lastly, we are in a state of perennial unhappiness, where we feel that no matter what happens, we do not feel happy. Why is this the case? So whenever we are not feeling happy, these things manifest in great forms. Today, the biggest disease the world is facing is not coronavirus. It is actually mental depression. Because people are so fragile, even small changes, small challenges that come their way is enough to trigger something very big. It is leading to divorces in the family. It is leading to single parentage. It is leading to children committing suicide. It is leading to elders committing suicide, constant stress and fight at the workplace, and so on and so forth. But our Shastra has beautifully condensed all our challenges into 2 broad buckets. And that's the beauty of our Shastras, which simplify things very clearly. What are those 2 challenges? One is ego or arrogance, which we call as ahankara, and the other one is attachment, which is mamakara. So when you look at this, ego, saying, I have done everything. This is mine. This belongs to me. This is something that I have done. This has happened because of me. You succeeded because of me. So there is a lot of ego that we all carry. And even a child is not an exception to this ego. A newborn child has its own ego. You try to feed it at a time when it doesn't want to be fed, its ego will come out and it will protest in its own way. And as we grow, more and more incidents and events in our life reinforce that sense of ego. Ego also has a positive strength, which is that, ego also drives us to do certain things to protect ourselves. So, for example, if you have committed to somebody that you will complete a task by a certain time, your ego will ensure that you actually meet that by that time, because you don't want to be seeing the other person and saying, oh my God, I could not do it, because that hurts your ego. That is good ego. But most of the ego is something that burns us. It leads to hatred and jealousy and makes us a slave of our own senses. So much so that all the modern day diseases are all conceived of because of this huge challenge that we find. So when we look at something like this, the Shastras, our scriptures, have the answers. It's not a surprise. If you read the last 10 editions of Harvard Business Review, the number of times it refers to Oriental philosophy, Hindu scriptures like Gita, Bhagavata, etc., is a testimony about how the West is looking at us to provide the path to overcoming these challenges. We have always looked at the West, we have always looked at modern technology, we have looked at science, we have looked at management lessons, we have looked at the military for lessons by which we can learn to overcome these challenges. So why not do something which the whole world is now beginning to believe is the solution which lies in our scriptures. So when you read the ancient scriptures, the stories that emerge, here are a few mindsets that it drives us towards. And a constant study of the scriptures imbibes these thinking with us. For a moment, imagine that the whole world gets into this mindset. There will be no stress, there will be no challenges. The world will be a very happy and a pleasant and a successful place to be. So, what is that mindset? The first mindset is I am not the doer. I am not the one who does anything. It is someone else who does it. Did you see my finger going up like this when I said someone else is doing it? It is referring to God. I am not the doer, someone else is the doer. I am reminded, when have you seen the Wimbledon tennis match? I'm sure you have. The moment the winner of the Wimbledon hits the winning shot, what does he do? He goes on his knees and looks up. He knows that there is no one sitting up there as a human being, but he is connecting to a sense of power, a place of power with a sense of gratitude, saying, "Oh God, thank you for what you have given me." Even the presidential oath in the United States says, "May God be with us." So we are always deriving power from the God. And this is what Madhwacharya says when Madhwacharya says, "Naham karta, hari karta." That means I am not the doer, someone else is the doer. I am just the vehicle for that particular activity. Have you seen people who deliver the courier? The products were not manufactured by them. The products do not belong to them. Somebody paid for it and somebody manufactured it. They are merely the carriers of that particular article. So they are neither the creators nor are they owners. They just take it from one end to the other. Same thing is with us. We do not do anything. We have no power to do anything. Just to narrate to you, the whole volunteer set and myself have been doing a dry run since quite some time about how to get this broadcast right. And what happens? Just at the nick of time, there is a cloud burst which happened, and I'm sure everybody who's in Bangalore would have experienced a burst of rain, a thunderstorm which hit us for nearly 45 minutes to the point that we were thinking whether we will be able to even conduct this workshop. So the immediate mindset to go is, I am not doing this. God is doing this, and He will make me do if it is in His will. That's the first mindset. The second one is the world around us is temporary. It is not an illusion, like Advaita says, but it is temporary. That means we are all temporary here. We have come here, we stay for a certain number of years, and then we go away. The world too around us keeps changing. People keep changing. The buildings change. The landscape changes. The weather changes. Our body changes. It becomes old. And it gives rise to a new generation of people, so on and so forth. Everything around us is constantly changing. But in this temporary world that I have come here, I need to maximize. I need to get to the best of what this world has to offer. Imagine you have gone on a holiday. I'm sure all of you have gone on a holiday once in a while. And when you go to the holiday, people tell you, look, you've got 5 days. Let us get the maximum out of this place. Let us say you've gone to Kashmir. You want to see everything there. Eat all the stuff that you can get. And then, meet as many people as you want. Buy as many things as possible. And come back. with the feeling that, okay, you've achieved a lot. The same thing goes for us. Our time on this planet is limited and we have to maximize that. The third mindset is that I will try to do my best, but the ultimate results are not in my hand because I am not the doer. I have tried my best. For example, you might have tried very hard to write an examination, but the results might not have been what you were expected. It should have the same detachment as though you topped your class because in either cases you did your best, but the results are dependent on so many other things and very importantly on the will of God. And lastly, I will try and understand the cause of my anxiety through meditation. All of us go through this anxiety. All of us have anxiety all around in our lives. That has become a part of our modern life. But through meditation, we can understand what is causing that anxiety, what is causing fear, what is causing that anger and frustration in me. It could be anything. And as a mind, we are not sometimes aware of what is this manifesting in, how do I get angry, what triggers me, and how can I actually overcome that. When you meditate on God, He will show you something which is within you, but you yourself don't know that. And lastly, I will try, I will turn my stress into positivity. Stress can, like ego, stress can also be a very positive thing. We can turn it into a positive thing. So, for example, I'm stressed up about something, but I can use that stress to do a positive thing. So, for example, can I go and help 10 people who are deeply affected by coronavirus? Can I go and buy medicines for somebody who is deeply affected and who can't go outside because of the lockdown? Can I make a donation to somebody who's building something to help the victims of coronavirus or the cyclone which has hit in Bengal and so on and so forth? But can I turn the stress into positivity? Yes. And what we will see today are those stories which teach us everything that we need to know about how to overcome the challenges. Before I get into the stories, one more point. When we look at our scriptures, they were all written by Lord Himself. Ramayana was written by Haigrivarupi Paramatma. The Mahabharata was written by Sri Vedavyasaru. Bhagavata, which was also written by Sri Vedavyasaru. Brahma Sutras, they also are written by Vedavyasaru. And of course, the Upanishads, which have emerged. All of them are not told a lot of stories. But the purpose of writing these texts was not to tell stories. You don't need the God to come and descend into this world to teach something which are just stories. What we hear as stories have very deep meaning and which have relevance for decades and centuries that are there to come. Ramayana was there, Ramayana is there, and Ramayana will be there as world unfolds. Like Srimati Ramya said it very well, that this is something which is relevant all along. In the time of lockdown, the viewership of a lot of channels has been going up, but the most popular programs seem to be Ramayana and Mahabharata. Don't we know the story of Ramayana? Don't we know the story of Mahabharata? We know what happened, who won the war, and what were the incidents and events. Yet, how come they retain that sense of mystique and that sense of mystery that is there behind them? It's like a murder mystery about who won the Mahabharata war, though we know what the end is. Simply because it was written by Lord to give a larger lesson. No matter how many times we read it, our mind, our soul yearns for more and more. Okay, so with that mindset, let us jump into how our flow of discussions. So the 100th workshop we talked about, till the 100th workshop we talked about Madhwacharya, the different Puranas, and what we can learn. So 100 workshops we have done on this. In the 100th workshop, we talked about living with confidence as a framework that we will use. Then we spent some time on teaching people the meditation session, which is the Ananda Dhyana Kriya. I hope you are practicing that form of meditation, and those of you who have missed it, it's available on YouTube. Our teacher Hanumesh Acharya has taught us beautifully about the Vaishnava way of actually doing meditation. Then we took up some topics which came as an outflow of the 100th workshop, which is parenting and preparation for examination. The last workshop was about decoding 9 truths about the God's creation and universe. So this workshop that you will see is an example, is an extension of that workshop with examples, illustrations, and stories of those 9 truths which are manifesting, and we will see how. The subsequent workshop are all based on the requests that we have been getting from different people about the subsequent workshop. In the next workshop, I will be sharing something about how to study Madhwacharya. A lot of questions. What are the resources? How much time should I spend? What should I get started? How many texts are there? How many topics and so on. Then we will have another workshop subsequently on integrating personal, professional, and spiritual lives. The biggest challenge for us is balancing different parts of our lives. So in this workshop, we'll learn that. And then we will look at the topics of science and spirituality as something that have pervaded in our mind, saying, is spirituality scientific? Is science spiritual? So these are questions that we get, and in that workshop we will talk. But in between, we will also have a special workshop on the occasion, the auspicious occasion of Sri Raghavendra Swamiji's Aradhana Mahotsava, which will come, and I will share the dates with you. And lastly, we will look at the understanding the nature of God. What is the nature of Brahman, which is the central topic of all philosophical texts. So that is the flow of discussion. The reason I put it out here is that I want you to understand that the workshop is being done as per a certain flow and a certain thinking which goes by. And we are very, very happy to receive any number of suggestions that you have about what would be interest you. We will either do the workshop by one of us, or we will call an expert on the topic that you want us to invite. So please let us know the topics either through mail or the chat box that we have. So that is the flow of our discussion today. In today's workshop, which is, all of you must be curious, which are those stories? So there is the story of purpose, which is the most important thing. Why do we live in this world? Why have we come here? Why should we do anything for that matter? Once you are clear about your purpose, your life becomes simplified, because that is your purpose, and you can go from there and go towards that purpose. No part of your life will be meaningful, because everything that you will do is to be achieving that purpose. A person who does not know his purpose, it's a sad situation for him, because he does not know where to go. Even the GPS cannot help you, because the moment you switch on the GPS, what is the first thing you have to write is, where do you want to go? You can't sit in an auto rickshaw and tell the auto rickshaw driver, okay guy, drive. He won't be able to drive. Similarly is our spiritual journey, similarly is our life. Our life should be leading towards something. And at the end of the day, one day when all of us leave this world, which we have to, whether we like it or not, we can safely measure and say that yes, we have walked at least one step towards that purpose, and God will recognize and give us the fruits for moving towards that purpose. So the first story is on purpose. Second story is on choices. Very simple. Our life is full of choices at every stage in our life. Should I join this school? Should I join that school? Should I go to this college? Should I go to that college? Which subject should I choose? Right? What is the kind of job should I work? Where should I buy a house? Whom should I get married? How many children should I have? Who are the friends I keep? What do I do in next stages of my life? How have I prepared? Have I prepared for the next stages of my life? How do I treat my elders? How do I treat my friends? How many friends should I have? Who should be my friend? Everything is about the right choice. And the right choice can take you to the right destination. The wrong choice can be ruinous. We will study the story on pursuit. How do you determine what is determination and how do you get to pursue? We learn about story on wisdom, story on egolessness, no ego. Can we get to that state? Are there people who have no ego? Very hard to imagine. But our Shastra don't give up so easily. Yes, there are stories about egolessness. Story on giving. How do you give? We are so bothered about taking all our life. How do you give? Story on sacrifice. We are so caught up in our own world that the topic of sacrifice has completely gone away from our life. But the stories that we are going to hear teach us about how sacrifice can elevate oneself. Then we talk about story on making the most of the destiny. Our life is short, but in that time, how do you maximize your time towards that purpose? And lastly, we look at stories on persistence. So stay tuned till the last minute, because the story on persistence is taught by two people we never think would have taught us stories. These are about two demons who appear in our scriptures, yet have something profound to teach us. So the first one is the story of purpose. And yes, the first one is about the story on purpose. Can you imagine who could be telling us this story? It is none other than Kunti, who teaches us the story of purpose. Now, before I get into the stories, I just wanted to share one thing. The stories that you hear today are not people who are perfect in everything. They are not perfect. But they are people who have stood out, though they were not the supreme. So the story is not about Krishna, the story is not about Rama, the story is not about Hanuman, Draupadi, and so on. Because these people are Sarvottama and Jivottama. And we know their stories well. And of course, there is never that their stories are never ending. But this is about people who are not the supreme people. They are not gods. They're fairly ordinary people who had lot of challenges, and they had their own limitations, but that did not stop them in any way to achieve whatever they wanted to achieve. So the first story is about Kunti. Kunti was born as Pritha, a young girl. She does all her life, if there is one thing which is common, is the fact that she had righteousness in every part of her life. Of course, there have been aberrations. There were situations which she could not overcome, and she committed mistakes. But as a person with lot of limitations, she still shows how one can be on the side of dharma and win the battle at the end. So what happened to Kunti was she actually does service to Durvasa Muni in the Chaturmasa time. So Chaturmasa is 4 months that, as we know, it starts in the month of July and August typically. It goes on for 4 months. These are very, very auspicious months, and they are considered great moments and times for us to serve a sannyasi. So she did that to Durvasa Muni, and Durvasaru then bestowed her 5 boons, as we know. And then she gets married to Pandu, and before that, she actually begets Karna. In a moment of childishness, she just utters a mantra and she begets a child. And being an unwed lady, an unwed girl, she's not able to sustain the child. She lets it go, and then we know the child grows up to become Karna. Then she marries Pandu. And what happens from then on is a series of atrocities that happened to her from the Kauravas, Dhritarashtra, and the others, who are always trying to pull them down. So much so that when Pandu goes to the forest with his 2 wives after he has committed a crime, and he wants to do paschatapa, Kunti is very much with him. And there is a situation when Pandu dies. We will not get into details of that story, but Pandu dies, and his second wife, Madri, and they have 5 children by then. At that time, there is a discussion between Madri and Kunti as to who has to perform Sahagamana. At that point in time, Madri says something which talks about Kunti's character. She tells that, look, we have 5 children. If you do Sahagamana, that is, you die along with the husband, then I will have to bring up the 5 children. But I am not sure that I will bring up all those 5 children as my own. But if I die, I'm very sure you will have the balance in your life to bring up all 5 children as your own because I trust your character. That is the height at which Kunti actually is. Before this, as we know, she has 5 boons. So she says, it's my duty to actually give a good king as a successor to the current king. So as a queen, I should beget a child who is going to spread dharma all around. And with that in mind, she prays to Lord Yama and she begets Yudhishthira. The second, she says, it's dharma cannot survive by itself. Dharma can survive only when it has got strength, the physical strength, the educational strength, and the wisdom, which is what Lord Vayu will give us. So he prays to Lord Vayu and begets Bhimasena. Then he says, no, that is not sufficient. We have dharma, we have bala, but we need Shravana, Manana, and Nitidhyasa as the 3 characteristics that are required for a successful king. So let us beget one more king, one more child, which is again going to support this establishment of the righteousness. So she goes and then begets Arjuna through Indira. So now they have 3 sons. At that point in time, Pandu says, look, I think we should have children who are good looking, handsome boys. So, Kunti is quite surprised. She says, these boons were given to me by Durvasa Muni to be used in the right way. I shall not use it for a frivolous reason. There is no need for us to have good-looking child. That is looks and beauty are not the only reasons why we should be having children. And by the way, we have Bhimasena and we have Arjuna and we have Yamadharmaraya. All 3 of them are great gods. How can we think of anyone who is more good-looking? I am not convinced that is a reason for us to beget more children. And then what she does is that she says, I think I have made the best use of my boons, and there is one boon I have, and I will give it off to Madri to use it in the way she wants. And then, of course, we know that Madri begets Nakula and Sahadeva. So again, in a very difficult circumstance, Kunti does not lose focus on what she is really looking for as a purpose in her life, which is as a queen, it was her duty to ensure that the safety of the kingdom by having the right king is very much there when actually she when she uses the boon. This is not the end. Throughout the story of Mahabharata, if you read, Kunti has always stood by what is right, and in very difficult circumstances. We lose a sense of our purpose so frequently. We just say, "Oh my God, I don't know. I'm getting confused. I forgot. I forgot to do this thing which is important because there were distractions." All her life, Kunti lived with Dhritarashtra and Gandhari. She did not stay with anyone else. She was with the people who actually were all the time conspiring against her and her children. She was all the time in the Kaurava camp, even during the war. Things don't stop here. Just after the beginning of the war, the Pandavas offer, can you come and we want to come and take your blessings, mother. And Kunti says, no, this is not the time to give and take blessings. I will bless you only after the war is over and you have won the war against Adharma. Only then I will give you my blessings. What a great thing for a mother to say, who has been separated from her child or from her children for so long. Even that is not the end. Her spiritual height is very beautifully measured at the fag end of her life. So the war is over. The Pandavas have won the war. Dhritarashtra and Gandhari decide to go to Vanaprastha, which means they want to go to Vanavasa and stay there. And all the Pandavas, including Kunti, have arrived at the border of the Hastinapura to see them off. At that moment, just when Gandhari and Dhritarashtra are supposed to leave to enter the forest, Kunti just changes her mind. She says, I think I have led my life. Now I will go with them and stay with them in the forest. And Yudhishthira and everybody is shocked. They say, all your life you have lived a life of suffering. Isn't this the time for you to enjoy? You should be enjoying this moment and live a few days with happiness. She immediately says, the purpose of my life is never to enjoy, but to serve this nation, to serve our country, and serve our mankind by ensuring that dharma has been established. And with you as a king, Yudhishthira, dharma has been established as a king. And I'm very sure that the generations that come after this will all be people who will uphold the law. Such was the greatness and height that Kunti could go to. Now, there is one more incident in Mahabharata where after the war is over, Krishna is going back to to Dwaraka and he's taking leave of the Pandavas. Kunti says, don't go, don't go. And there's a beautiful prayer which is part of Bhagavata where she actually prays to Krishna and says, don't go. Because if you go away, we are happy now. We will not remember you. So what I want from you, Krishna, is first of all, don't go. But if you have to go, then ensure that we get only sorrow in our life. We don't get any happiness. Because the moment we get sorrow, we will remember you. Otherwise, we will forget you. Do you know of anyone who wakes up in the morning and says, I want sorrow? Right? So, this is what is the height of Kunti. And she teaches a very, very valuable lesson of having a purpose. The next one is about making the right choices. You can see there are two stories here. One story is that of Vibhishana, and the other one is that of Krishna, Arjuna, and Duryodhana. So Vibhishana made that historic choice of abandoning his brother and joining Lord Rama. So the story in Ramayana goes, we all know the story, that Hanuman jumped across the ocean and he found Vibhishana there and in the middle of Sri Lanka. And in Lanka, everybody was completely dishonest. They were leading a very bad quality of life. They were drunk. And of course, the Ramayana describes all the kind of illicit activities which are happening in Lanka. What more would you expect in Ravana's kingdom? At that point in time, when Hanuman is going house to house to see who is doing what, he suddenly sees a house from where the name of Sri Rama is being chanted, and he goes and he sees Vibhishana. And then Hanuman comes back, and we know the story. When Vibhishana crosses over and asks Rama, please take me into your army, I will help you fight Ravana. Everybody opposes that. Everybody opposes it. He said, this person has come from the enemy army, so you should not integrate him. He may be a cheat. He may be a traitor. He may be a spy. So don't entertain him. But at that time, Hanuman comes and tells that no, in Lanka, when obviously he did not know that I was there, he was chanting the name of Lord Rama, even without anything on aspiring for anything. So, I know that he is a righteous person. And tomorrow, after we win the war, we need to have a king in Lanka who is righteous and who is able to undo all the wrongdoings of what Ravana has done. So, how did we all know the famous story where the three brothers, Ravana, Kumbhakarna, and Vibhishana, prayed to Lord Brahma. And Ravana asks Brahma, make me invincible, make me immortal. Brahma says, no, it is not possible. Anybody who has been created by me has to meet at his end and he has to die one day. He says, you should make me Chiranjeevi. He says, it's not possible. You ask for some other boon. And Ravana as we know, asked for other boons. Kumbhakarna ends up asking for sleep. Many of us might question, can anybody do penance for 10,000 years and ask for, to sleep as a wish? Definitely yes. They do that. And we are seeing it in today's world. Every single moment that we live, we are seeing that people are consuming, drugs worth crores of rupees just to sleep. This is no different. Kumbhakarna was, one such character. Then when you ask Vibhishana, what do you need? Vibhishana comes and says, I wanted to ask you a lot of things, but just by looking at you, I feel I don't have to ask anything. Oh Lord Brahma, you are standing in front of me. I have had your darshan. I don't think I need anything else. And imagine what Brahma tells him. You will be a Chiranjeev. The same thing he said Ravana, that it was not possible. He's bestowing that boon on Vibhishana. Simply because, again, Lord Brahma wants that if this person remains a Chiranjeevi, he is going to propagate the right set of values. So that is a choice that Vibhishana had to make between being with his brother or joining Rama. Almost an identical story happens before the starting of the war in Mahabharata. There is Lord Krishna and he is in Dwarika, and both Duryodhana and Arjuna go to meet him and seek his support for the war. We know the story. Krishna says, you have two choices. I am there, you can take me. But the problem is I am not going to lift any weapon. I am not going to fight the war. But if you want, I will send my Narayani Saini or Narayani army. The beauty of the Narayani army is that every day you kill, if somebody gets killed in the army, the next day they will come alive so that you cannot kill them. So that's the boon. And they will fight. Narayana Sainya will fight, whereas I will not fight, I will just be sitting. That is the choice. Arjuna makes the right choice. He says, oh Lord Krishna, we want you. He is clear. He does not bat an eyelid. The speed, the clarity, and the simplicity with which he makes the choice talks about his spiritual height, his own height, and the height of the Pandavas, where it was clear you don't have to do anything. And rest, as they say, is history. We all know what happened in the war. Duryodhana, on the other hand, decided to take the Narayani army. He is very happy that this Krishna is basically useless to us because he's not going to fight the war. And by the way, he's not going to use his weapons. And the Narayani army is going to really help us. What a tragedy. I think the war was effectively lost that very minute when he made the wrong choice. So again, the story of right choice. We have to look at how we make choices. And we have the same choices every single day. We wake up in the morning. What do we do first? Do we do something that is going to energize us first thing in the morning? Are we going to start the day with a meditation, with a prayer, with Sandhya Vandanam or Deva Puja, or helping somebody early in the morning? Or we start the day by cursing some people, by doing, having 5 cups of coffee and, developing stress in ourselves, or waking up at 10 o'clock in the morning. These are choices. And these choices oftentimes decide the result that we are going to be attaining. So those are the stories of the right choices. The next one is the story on pursuit. Again, we all know the Kataka Upanishad. Some of us would have heard the story. If you have heard the story, it is a unique story. There is a young boy by name Nachiketa, and the whole Upanishad, Kataka Upanishad, is a question and answer session between Yama and Nachiketa. And Nachiketa goes to hell. I mean, literally goes to the hell, right? Or Naraka. And there, he wants to meet Lord Yama. So Lord Yama's wife, she comes out and says, look, Brahmin, you've come to our house. It's my duty to feed you. He refuses to eat. He says, no, I will not eat till I have found my answer to my question. And, she says, look, You are a very young boy. This is not a place for you. This is literally the hell. It's a very scary place. People like you should not be here. He says, nothing doing. I am very determined to achieve whatever I want, and I want to know the answers to these questions. Then, after 3 days, Yama is testing this person whether he really is keen to do something, know these answers, or he's just pretending. So he actually comes after 3 days. Imagine the boy is lying, staying in Naraka for 3 days without eating anything. And then Yama appears in front of him and he says, Brahmin boy, you are Nachiketa, you should not be here. Why are you doing this? He says, no, I want the answer to your question. He says, look, this is not the age at which you should be asking philosophical questions, which is what we tell ourselves. That even at the age of 55 or 60 years, we are telling, no, I have a long way to go towards spiritual path. Spirituality is something that people typically should start after 60, 65. Before that, spirituality and I have nothing to do with each other. That is so wrong. Nachiketa says, no, I have to know the answers to what I have come here for. So, Lord Yama, can you please tell me the answer? He says, okay, what are the 3 questions? And then Nachiketa puts forward those 3 questions and he's determined to get the answers. I will not go through all the questions, but the last question, which is the most difficult for him, he asks this question, says, can you tell me what happens after death? Or is the soul common between the person who is dead and who is alive? What is the nature of that, of death, and how does it take it? How does the life sort of progress after that? Yama is actually shocked to hear this question from Nachiketa because such a young boy asking such an intricate philosophical question. Yama even offers that, look, I will answer the first 2 questions. They are simple, but this is a very deep philosophical question and you should not be asking this at this age. Nachiketa is undeterred. He says, yes, I want the answer. That is why I have come to a great guru like you. So in sheer appreciation, Yama is so happy that he gives the answer to the entire question. All the 3 questions. And that is where a unique concept in life is taught by Kathokopanishad. Vijit, Shreyas and Preyas. In our life, there are 2 types of happiness. Shreyas is something that happens because of Shreyas is something which is a long-term gain. Preyas is something that happens for a short-term happiness. So all the worldly happiness is preyas, whereas long-term gain is Shreyas. And we have to focus on the long-term gains and long-term happiness and not be happy with the temporary happiness that we get today by eating a certain dish or meeting somebody or having a discussion with somebody, which is very, very temporary. All the worldly pleasures, however great they may appear, are something which will perish at some stage or the other. Nachiketa is looking for that eternal happiness and he gets it. Of course, Kathokopanishad goes on talking about several aspects after this. But that story of pursuit, where a young boy went all the way up to Yamaloka to get his answers, is truly inspiring to all of us. All of us need to have that sense of purpose, that sense of pursuit to achieve jnana. Today, that is the biggest mistake and that's the biggest lacuna in this world, where people are not learning enough. They're not learning about our spiritual lives. They're not reading the texts of our written by some of the greatest masters. And we should, and on this occasion, commit ourselves. And we may not reach Nachiketa's level, but at some stage we will pursue the right knowledge. So this is the next story that we have is the story of wisdom. Again, Vidura is this is the story of Vidura, another character in Mahabharata. So you would see we are moving from one scriptural text to the other. The previous one was in Kathokopanishad. Now we have come to the story of wisdom, which is the story of Vidura. Again, a person who was born in a lowly caste, but at the end of the Mahabharata Purana, he is right on top as a person who stood for Niti. We all hear about Vidura Niti, correct? We don't have here about anybody else's Niti. There is Bhagavad Gita and there is Vidura Niti, which means he stood for what is right. And all through the story of Mahabharata, you can see Vidura always standing for the right things. He's a person who's sitting right next to Dhritarashtra. Dhritarashtra cannot live a moment without him, simply because he knows he's going to give him the right advice, however difficult it may be for him to absorb. There were several occasions in Mahabharata when Dhritarashtra asked Vidura to go away because he's giving him things which are not pleasant to his ears. But he keeps giving the right counsel to Dhritarashtra. There is a story which happens after the war. After the war is over, Dhritarashtra, very surprisingly, despite having lost 100 of his sons, is still sitting at home and every day in the morning waking up with this question saying, okay, what do I eat today? What nice dish can somebody make for me? And let me eat this. And he was fully into worldly pleasures. And everybody, Yudhishthira and Arjuna and everybody was being very sympathetic towards him. So, oh my dear uncle, you lost 100 children and you must be a very sad man, and so on and so forth. There is only one person who is not agreeing with this, which is Bhima. Every day he would come and stand near Dhritarashtra's palace and speak with a loud voice. He will say, oh my God, I don't know why my uncle is still alive. You know, he has lost 100 sons and yet he has not got any detachment. Does he not have a heart? How can somebody live 100, lose 100 sons and yet be so happy? How can he even be alive? So, at one point in time, Dhritarashtra gets very impatient and he goes and tells Vidura, oh Vidura, everybody in this kingdom is a friend of mine. They have some sympathy at least for me. But look at this Bhima. He's the only guy who's coming in front of my house and asking me to go to the forest every single day. And Vidura chips in with the right advice, saying, O king, Dhritarashtra, though he is not a king, he says, O king, I think it's time for you to take this suggestion seriously. If you have any friend in this world, it is only Bhima, because he's telling you to do the right thing. So, he is like a doctor. A doctor will never will give you a medicine which is very sweet. But just because he gives you a pill which is bitter, doesn't mean that he does not have your health as a priority for him. No. The doctor is an effective doctor when he is able to cure your problems, not give you what you like to eat or drink. So, Vidura is all along is giving the right advice to Dhritarashtra, and that's what we learn from Vidura. Of course, Vidura's character is very large. There are a lot of aspects of that, but if there's one thing that we can take from him, is the story on how he always gives the right advice through his righteousness. So that's the story on wisdom. Next, let's go to the story on egolessness. Again, a very interesting story which appears as a part of Bhagavata is the story of somebody we all know as Jada Bharata. So some of you might have heard this story, some of you have not, but clearly the story goes like this. As we know, Bharata is a Chakravarti, the king, and the country Bharata has got its name from Bharata Chakravarti. So he is a Chakravarti, and what he does is that he goes and he lives a very useful life, but towards the end of life, when he is about to die, he actually befriends a deer. Yes, he falls in love with a deer and he starts taking care of that deer, and he develops so much attachment that in the last minute when he is about to die, in his mind, despite having led such an illustrious life of a Chakravarti and a great devotee of God, he ends up dying thinking about as that deer. And in the next Janma, in the next birth, he is born as the deer because he was thinking about it when he died. And soon, after some time, he understands his mistake. Now, Bharata had a unique boon, which was that in the subsequent lives, he will still remember what had happened in his previous life. So as a deer, he remembered that he was Bharat Chakravarti, and when he is born later, he also remembers that he was born as a deer and Bharat Chakravarti in his previous lives. So now he is born in a Brahmin family, very devout family, and he realizes that last time he lost focus on his goal, which was attaining Lord Narayana, which was to understand every tenet that the scriptures had been teaching him, and all that had happened because he had an ego. So if he can lead a life which is totally egoless, all his problems will be solved. So in this birth, when he is a Brahmin, he decides not to speak, not to hear, and lead the life of someone who people actually thought was a mad human being. So, and people called him Jadabharata. So he would be going all around, and from the time that he was born to the time he dies, all along, he never speaks to anybody. So he's got a father who is trying to teach him how to recite the Vedas, etc. But as a boy, does not show any interest in any one of this. Soon his father dies, and his brothers then completely abandon him, saying, "Okay, this boy, I think, is mad. So there is no point in trying to teach him anything. Let him work in the fields, and we will pay him some money." He never bargained that, "Look, you should pay me so much." He just keeps working hard and hard, and whatever comes his way, he accepts his whole life as philosophy. Of course, those of you who want to study Jadabharata's story in Bhagavata, I would strongly recommend you do that, because I think in that story, the entire essence of Madhva philosophy is said so beautifully and in such a simplified manner that it is unparalleled. That piece itself in Bhagavata is worth its weight in gold. Coming back to the story, what he does is that he moves from one place to the other. He doesn't take a bath. His body is always, his body is always smeared with mud and dust, but in his heart, he's pure. He's got Jyoti, Antar Jyoti, which is that he's always thinking about God, and God is actually in front of him all the time. He's able to see God, he's able to feel the presence of God, and he's able to lead a life where his ego is not coming between him and anything else. It's a very dichotomous life that he's leading. Internally, he's a scholar of immense experience, but outwardly, most people do not know this. Then why did he not take a bath? Why did he have dust all over it? Because a scholar of that caliber would have had a resplendence and brightness on his face. He did not want to be recognized by anybody. He just wanted to lead a life of an avadhuta, as we call it, a person who's totally oblivious to whatever is happening in the world. So one day he is off, and it's a long story. I will shorten it and give you the essence of it. In that one fine day, he becomes a palanquin bearer for a king. As you can see in the picture, those days, kings used to be taken in a palanquin, and there will be 4, 5, 6 people actually lifting it, and there were 4 people lifting it. And since he had an able body, he was selected for that job. And the king is sitting there, and he's on his way going somewhere, and he actually sees Jadabharata is one of the persons lifting it, but he does not want to stamp on all the ants and all these small insects which are on the way. So he's trying to avoid those insects, and in the process, he starts jumping, and to the point that the whole palanquin starts vibrating, and the king gets very angry. He comes out of the palanquin and said, "What the hell are you people doing?" To which the other 3 people says, "Look, we are walking straight. This guy doesn't seem to know his job." And he gets very angry. He warns him once, but when Jadabharata continues his behavior, he immediately attacks him, and he, abuses him very badly. For the first time in his life, Jadabharata opens his mouth and he tells him who he is. And the king is shocked, because the king is just a king, but Jadabharata was a Chakravarti at one point in time. That means a person who ruled the whole world. And then he tells his spiritual journey about why he did this, and his whole the lessons that he gives to the king at that point in time constitutes the essence of virtually all the Vedas and all the Puranas. It's a long essential story that he narrates and gives several advices to the king about how he should be looking at the world, looking at life, looking at soul, and yet not be egoistic simply because he's a king, and so on and so forth. But what we learn from this lesson, from this story, is the story of egolessness. Our ego comes in the way of everything we want to do. Ego can be a big positive, it can be a gross negative. So we have to handle it very carefully. And a person who is egoistic, what does he do? He does not learn from anybody, he does not interact with anybody, he makes enemies unnecessarily, and so on and so forth. And this journey keeps going on. So an egoistic person in the long run stands to lose because he's not developing himself. He goes to a college and says, I don't have to learn anything. He doesn't learn anything. So why go to a college if there's nothing to be learned? He goes to work. He's not able to work with anybody around him. Simply because he says, I'm too good. I can't work with these people who are not talented enough. Again, it's a huge problem. So this continues. His relationships get spoiled. People do not find him to be someone that they can work with. And slowly, he becomes the home for all the diseases in the world. So the state of egolessness makes us light. Because it's not up to me. It's not up to him. It's not up to anybody else. It's all up to God. And if we do that surrender to God, the dasatva that we talk about, if we do that, if that surrender happens, then this ego is gone. That is the lesson of Jada Bharata. As I said, it spans across several chapters, so I would really encourage everybody to read that in detail and get hold of the spiritual lessons that we have. The next lesson is that of giving, the story of Sudama. Sudama, as we know, is the king, is Krishna's friend in the Gurukula. And they've studied together. They also get stuck in a unique event when they have to go to the forest to buy something, and suddenly there's a big storm and they get stuck in the forest all night. And so they know each other very well and very close friends. But after the studies in the Gurukula is over, Krishna becomes the king. He is Lakshmipati. He is the god of all wealth. And Sudama ends up in abject penury and poverty. So much so that he does not even have food to eat. So the background of the story is that Sudama at one point in time would have been a Brahmin in his previous birth with a lot of who's again a great devotee of Lakshmi and Narayana. And Goddess Lakshmi once tells Lord Narayana in the Vaikuntha Loka, this person seems to be a very righteous person. Let me bestow him all the happiness that he wants. Narayana says initially that no, wait, I think he has to go a few more miles in his bhakti and his devotion, and maybe he has to elevate himself a little more spiritual. Why don't we wait? But then later on, he says, okay, let us bestow him whatever he has. The Brahmin at that point in the previous birth, it just gets into his head. Oh my God, I have become rich now. And he starts to misbehave with everybody and does a lot of adharma. Looking at that, Krishna says, look, I think he got something ahead of time. So we should wait and give it to him in stages. So in the next Janma, he's called Sudama, or he's called Kuchela, meaning someone with torn clothes. All his life, he leads a life of abject poverty, so much so that they don't have food to eat. So one day, it goes beyond his control. And his wife comes to him and says, look, I cannot sustain this hunger anymore. All our life, we have not asked Lord Krishna for anything. But now, can you please go and to your friend and get something for us, some money so that we can survive? We have not eaten. So Sudama says, okay, Why don't you go and get something that we can give to Krishna? Because there is a rule which says that when you go and meet a king, you or somebody elder to you, you are not supposed to go empty-handed. So she goes to the neighbor's house and begs them for abalaki or rice, and she gets four fistful of that. Then we know the story. Krishna, he goes to meet Krishna. Krishna welcomes him, and he gives him whatever respect that has to be given. He makes him sit on the same bed that he was sitting. And Rukmini and Satyabhama are people who are fanning him as he washes his feet. Krishna washes Sudama's feet. So overwhelmed by all this, Sudama thinks in his mind, "Oh my God, he's so great. He has got so much of love towards me. How can I ask him for something? What if he mistakes that I have come all the way only to ask him something? So let me not ask." But Krishna, the Sarvantarayami that he is, who is in everybody's mind and conscience, he realizes that he has got some gift, but he is embarrassed to give it. So Krishna reaches with his own hands and he takes away the parched rice, the avalaki, and then eats it himself. And instantly, because he has given God everything that he had, because that is all that he had, he bestows the boon on him to be the richest person ever. Sudama then takes leave, reaches home, and when he reaches home, he realizes that he has become a rich man. His house has transformed. His wife is wearing jewels, and there are hundreds of people who are serving him. His house has become a mansion. He's got all the wealth in the world. And instantly he realizes that all that has come because of his meeting Krishna. And without telling him, Krishna has bestowed whatever he wanted. So he now decides that my previous birth, I made that mistake. I'm not going to do it again now. This birth, though I have all the riches, I will still continue in order to live a life which is towards God. All this wealth has come because of Him, and I will use it in His service. So that's the spiritual elevation that he has been able to give. But again, there is a story on giving, because despite of having taken the parched rice, does not give it. But Krishna, on the other hand, gives him everything for just one fistful of parched rice that he actually saved. Um, so, which brings us to the next story, which is the story of sacrifice, story of Bhishma. Again, a person who who was a person with a lot of limitations compared to the Pandavas, compared to Krishna and some of the other greats in the Kaurava army. Bhishma, by his nature or Swarupa, is only a Vasu. But because of his ability to actually be on the right side and speak the righteous thing, he is able to gain an upper hand. He makes an unbelievable sacrifice for his father. Though Shantanu Maharaja never told him, he he actually decides and vows to be an Ajanma Brahmachari. And from then on, he has had to face so many situations about having to nominate so many other people as kings. But he is one person who never becomes a king. He has had, of all the people in Mahabharata, the Ashtavasus, he is a person who faces all the maximum number of sorrow. So the picture that we have of Bhishma is a person lying on the bed of arrows. But in the process, there are three unique things that happen in his life. One, then he is asked at the time of Rajasuya Yaga, who should be given Agra Puja, or whose puja should be done first amongst all the people assembled. Pandavas ask him. Bhishma immediately tells him, it should be Lord Krishna. Can't you see the brightness on his face itself is an indication that he is Sarvottama, he is Sarvashreshtha. And with that, he tells the essence of all the Shastras. Shriman Madhwamate Harihi Parataraham. Second incident is when he is lying on the on the arrow, the bed of arrows. At that point in time, he is asked that you have to give. You have learned so much in your life. In Bhishma's life, 525 years of that life, 800 years plus of his life, 525 years he has spent getting educated in the Swargaloka. Imagine somebody gets educated in a university abroad. We feel so proud. But imagine Bhishma was educated in universities in the heavens, and with divine knowledge that he got for 525 years. So he had that knowledge, and Krishna says all that knowledge cannot go a waste. It has to be used, and it has to be captured by Yudhishthira, because he has to lead a successful life. At that point in time, Krishna gives us a message. Whenever there is an opportunity, however big or small that may be, to learn something, never give up that opportunity. So he goes and tells Bhishma, you should teach Yudhishthira. To which Bhishma says, Krishna, I am lying in a bed of arrows. Do you think I can even speak? At that point in time, Krishna says, don't worry. I will give you the strength. I will give you the knowledge. I will give you the wisdom to teach Yudhishthira what he should be doing by giving my energy to you. And that's what he does. And lastly, in the fag end of his life, he gets the ultimate credit for all the great things that he has led in his life, which is he gets an opportunity to recite the holy Vishnu Sahasranama in front of Krishna, with Parshama by his side, Sri Vedavyasa by his side. So three forms of God, Bhimasena or Vayudeva, with Draupadi, with Bharati Devi, all of them are present in front of him when he is reciting it. We all know the divine power of Vishnu Sahasranama. But imagine, Bhishmacharya had the unique opportunity to recite it in front of Lord Krishna himself. So that is the boon that he got in the end. That's like a icing on the cake, as they say, of his life. This is the story of sacrifice. Yes, he sacrificed all his life, but the result that he got at the end is something that was absolutely unparalleled. There is also a funny story in the Mahabharata war. As we know, Krishna had decided not to use the weapon. Bhishma then says, oh my God, he just takes a vow that I will ensure that Krishna lifts a weapon. So it is Krishna's vow versus Bhishma's vow. Who wins? Bhishma wins. Krishna loses. This is the funny story. You can think, how can Krishna lose? He's God. So Lord Krishna himself gives the explanation, saying, even if I lose, it's my devotee who has won. My bhakta has won. If I lose, nothing happens. I am Lord Narayana. I'm the Supreme. Nobody can say anything to me. But if Bhishma loses, people will doubt whether he really led a life of a Ajanma Brahmachari. They will doubt that, and I don't want anybody to doubt a great devotee of mine like Bhishma. So that's the story of sacrifice, and look at what Bhishma gets in his end. Today, as we know, on the occasion of Bhishmashtami, which appears sometime in the month of January typically, is a time when everybody, even people who have their parents who are alive, they have to give Bhishma Tarpana, or an offering on the memory of Lord Bhishma. Krishna says, Ganga is Bhishma's mother. She's crying. She says, oh my God, he died a brahmachari. He does not have children. How will he? Everybody will feel that nobody is there to perform his last rites. Nobody will give him tarpana, which is the offering in water. Krishna says, no, I will ensure the whole world gives tarpana to him on that day. So people who give that tarpana get punya, and people who do not give tarpana get papa, as per the Mahabharata. So that is the tribute that he got at the end of his life because of a life of sacrifice. From the story of sacrifice, we move to making the story of making the most out of destiny. We all know the story of Parikshit Raja in Bhagavata. In Bhagavata, what happens? is that we know this background of the story. Parikshit Raja actually picks up a dead snake and puts it in an act of arrogance on in the neck of a sage. The son of that sage gets very upset, and he says that may a snake bite you and may you die in 7 days. Immediately, look at Parikshita's mindset. He does not fight with that boy because he knows he has made a mistake and he wants to give repentance. He says, "This boy has told me that I will die in 7 days. So what does it mean? It means that I will definitely not die for another 7 days. Whereas that guarantee others people don't have. They can die within 7 days. All of us can die any moment. So Bhagavata, then he says, what should I do now? Is to listen to the great text of Bhagavata. So he maximized those 7 days. He knew death was coming, but he decided how he can do the best to make the best of those 7 days. So this is really a story in how do you maximize. We are all the time complaining about constraints that we have. We all the time we complain about what is not working for us. But look at Parikshit Raja. He never sat back. He never cried because he's facing death. He does not lose his cool. He's saying death has to come to everybody. I know that I will die in 7 days. So instead of trying to overcome the death, which anyway I'm going to do someday, it is better I make the best of 7 days. A great lesson. If you're a student or a professional or anyone, the time that we have is the biggest asset that we have. And we should know how to maximize. What is the best use of your time? Are you using it for a spiritual pursuit? Are you using it to help somebody? Are you using it for the right or in the path of dharma? What are you using it for? That is more important than how much time you have. Because if you have a lot of time and you're wasting it, then there is no point in leading a longer life. Even if somebody had a shorter life, how do they use it is important. We all are used to T20 matches, right? What is the measure of success for a batsman? It is not how many balls that he played. It is how many runs that he scored in the limited number of balls that he got to face, which is going to determine whether he's going to be successful or others. The same thing is true of life. Life is also a T20 match. And we should know how to maximize that. So then we come to the last story, which I said was going to be intriguing, which is two stories, one in Ramayana and the other one in Bhagavata, which is of two demons. Can we learn some lessons from demons? Yes, Bhagavata has stories that we can learn even from demons. So you must be thinking, these are all the stories that we have, where the story must be that, don't be like the demon. That's what the expectation. No, the answer is not that. The answer is these demons have also taught us something. So the story is that about Hiranyakashipu and Ravana. Hiranyakashipu is Hiranyakashipu's brother. Hiranyaksha has been killed by Lord Varaha. We know the story. And the whole set of demons who are around Hiranyakashipu, they are all crying. And Hiranyakashipu is also in a state of sorrow, but soon overcomes that. And he says, look, let me tell you a story. There were two birds. A hunter came and killed one bird. And the other bird was waiting and crying that the other bird got killed. And in the process, what happened was the hunter came and killed the second bird also. So the lesson that I have learned, or Hiranyakashipu has learned, is that if we keep crying because Hiranyaksha has died, we will also get killed because we are all in a state of sorrow and we can't fight Hari. Don't worry, I will take care of Sri Hari. Let's all battle. Right? He has taught us a very important lesson about moving on in life. We get so bogged down by today's failures, today's lack of success, today's lack of energy, that we don't wake up the next day with a sense of purpose. Again, we lost our purpose. Whatever we learned from the beginning, we have lost it already because we have faced failure. So the biggest lesson to learn from Hiranyakashipu is never to lose heart. Different matter, he had the wrong goal. He was not a righteous person, but yet there is a lesson for us to learn. And lastly, very, very valuable lesson in today's world. is from Ravana. As we know, we've already mentioned the story. Ravana wants to live forever. That is the lesson of longevity, the lesson to live life. It is increasingly seen around us, be it teenagers, be it middle-aged people, be it old people. Everybody just wants to die. Nobody wants to live. It's common, right? Somebody calls you and you say, "Oh my God, I was thinking about you," and you called me. You will live 100 years. What is the response you typically get? "Oh, no, 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 I don't want to live 100 years. I don't want to live a life of sorrow. I don't want to live a life of old age. I want to die when I'm 45. I want to die when I'm 50. I want to die after retirement. I want to die." What have you achieved in your life? In this life, you got the human form. Manava Janma Doddadu. You got the life where you can help other people. You got a life where you can learn the scriptures and teach it to other people. You can spend that time chanting God's name. You can do million things in this world. Until the last moment of your life, you can lead a very successful life. Why do people want to die? Look at the number of people who are committing suicide. People are going into depression. People are going into frustrations. All this is happening because people do not have the desire to live. And that is very, very critical in my mind. And that's the lesson that Ravana has given us. That no matter what happens, you should always want to live. And that's a great lesson for all of us to have, even from a demon. Let us all live a full life. Let us live a life which is purposeful, which is for someone else. How do we serve others? How do we do dharma? How do we pursue the study of scriptures? How do we ensure that people around us have an awareness about God? How do we inspire others to recite the name of God? No matter what happens, God never puts us in a situation where we can't at least remember His name. Yes, today the coronavirus is all around us and it is threatening to engulf humanity. But in this moment, what we can definitely do is help people who are affected and take care of the people around us and as many people as we can take care of, including ourselves, and hope and pray to God that this does not come in our way of leading a successful life. So these were the different stories and lessons that we had coming from different parts of the structures. So in summary, how do you have a purpose in life? How do you make the right choices? How do you have the determination to come to that pursuit? How do you have the wisdom, the sense of balance that is needed? How to give up your ego, which comes in the way of everything that you want to pursue? How do you, the story of giving selflessly, how do you make a sacrifice and making the most of the destiny? We all have limited time, limited resources. And lastly, the story of persistence that we learned from Hiranyakashipu and Ravana. These are the lessons that I thought I should be sharing with you as we go along, and we'll take a few questions and answers. And before that, I just wanted to share with you how our next workshops are going to be. We're going to be looking at, many people have asked us, what is the study of, how does one undertake the study of Madhwacharya? What are the resources? What's the methodology? Which books should they study first? So from the experiences that we have all gathered, learning from gurus, I will try and share some of that in our next workshop. And subsequent to that, we will have a special workshop, which is on the life and works of Sri Raghavendra Swamiji, which is just before his Aradhana Mahotsava. And then we'll get into an integrating personal, professional, and spiritual lives that I mentioned earlier, which is how do you balance that? How do you make spirituality scientific and science spiritual? That we will see in the workshop on the 30th of August. And subsequent to that, we will have a workshop which talks about understanding the basic nature of God. What is the nature of God? What makes God? Is our definition of God accurate? Are the scriptures aligned to that definition? Or have we created some construct of our own? So these are the things that we will cover in the next workshop. The next workshop, as I said, is on the study of Madhwacharya, resources and methods. It will be on Sunday, 28th of June, 4 to 5:30 p.m. So please join us online at the same time. that we have the current workshop. So now I will spend some time. I know we have overshot the time, but I will take a few questions that I'm getting from people. So, second question by is that is there anything in Madhva Shastra or even amongst our ancient heroes that can help and inspire somebody suffering through depression? Yes, I think as we emphasized before, people get into depression because most of the time they don't know what is causing that anxiety and what is causing that state of unhappiness. So, Madhva Shastra has explained that yes. Thanks for your patience. Sorry, we lost connection for a brief while. Um, we are talking about is there anything suffering from depression? Yes, definitely. It is possible to overcome depression through a series of meditation techniques and shlokas and stotras which have been recited. Many people have put this question to Pujya Shri Prabanjanacharya and many people who have come, and we have also answered this question. Yes, it is possible to do that. We'll be happy to connect with you if you could reach out to us. We have a way in which we can help people come out of depression. This is again, depression happens because it's a state of mind, and Manoniyamakaru Rudradevaru is always there to help people who want to come out of this. So definitely we can help with suggestions on this. Yes, there are answers. um, for the purpose of life, you chose the story of Kunti. Why not Satyavati? Yes, great examples. But again, the Mahabharata and Bhagavata are such treasure troves of so many characters who all qualify for the same thing. So yes, Satyavati is a great example of what a life of purpose that she has left. But again, Kunti is someone who really stands out. Her pursuit of the righteous behavior takes her to the extent that she says, I am prepared to accept sorrow because that is what helps me connect with Lord Krishna. So all the famous shlokas that we typically recite are a part of that of Bhagavata, which actually Kunti recites in praising Lord Krishna. Like this, yes, again a great choice. I would agree that yes, that is also a story of purpose. That's a very good example. um, so why Ashwatthama accepted Duryodhana's desire? It is the profound effect of Duryodhana. Duryodhana is none other than Kali, and he has the ability to engulf everything and destroy everybody's thinking. So, though Ashwatthama is an incarnation of Lord Shiva, he is not able to overcome this. And that's the difference between Vayu and Devaru on one side and other gods on the other side. Lord Vayu is the same irrespective of his avatar. So whether he was Madhwacharya or whether he was Hanumanta or he was Bhimasena, there is no distortion in his knowledge levels. But that is not true of the other gods. Look at Lord Yama. He is present in different formats, in different avatars, in the same at the same time. He is Jambavanta, he is Vidura, but his behavior in both the cases, and he is Yudhishthira. In all these three things, his behavior is very different. That is because that difference exists with the Mula Rupa. Same thing goes with Ashwatthama also. Ashwatthama is there as Shiva is there as Ashwatthama. He is also there as Durvasa Muni at the same time. But his behavior is different because he himself, in many ways, is also a victim of the immense power that Kali has on him. And we know the story. In when Ashwatthama was very young, Arjuna one day tells him that every day your parents are actually not giving you milk; they are giving you something else. So if you want to drink the real milk, you should come to my house. And he gives him that milk that that is made that's available in his palace. And says, "See, this milk is so nice. That's not the same as milk as other one," which is true because Krupi, his mother, Ashwatthama's mother, would be feeding him an artificial kind of milk because they don't have a cow at home. But Duryodhana uses that opportunity to completely corrode people's mind. And it's common, it's very well known to us, it's scientifically proven that the kind of food that we eat has an immense bearing on the way we think. During this lockdown, many people are not eating outside, and many people say, look at their physical health has also improved because they're eating only homemade food, which is safe, which is healthy, whereas that's not the case with every other food. So Kali enters our brain through the food through the food that we eat. So we have to be very careful. If the food is sattvic food, it's offered to God and then it is consumed, then Kali will not be able to affect us like that. So Ashwatthama agrees to do the most heinous thing that one can think of because of the influence of Kali. So that's the question that has come. Yeah, so these are some of the questions that are coming to us from different places. Please keep this dialogue on. Please also suggest, you are getting the emails hopefully from Madhwacharya for the youth. So please put your questions there. We'll be more than happy to answer your questions as we go along and ensure that those are answered by us or by the experts on the subject. And very importantly, we are keen to bring this workshop on topics that are of interest to you. So we have a certain plan in mind based on the feedback that we have been getting from a lot of our participants. But if there are more topics, please do ensure that you are constantly reach out to question. And So that's the whole aspect that we are looking at. So if there are suggestions that you have, please do give it on the topics that we have. Here there's one final question. Could you talk a little bit about Datta Swatantra? Yes, we are going to cover that not in the next workshop, but the workshop after that, because I will talk about the nature of soul. So Akshay, sorry we can't answer because we are really running short of time, and there are a lot of people still on. I can see still glued on. So thanks for all your participation. So Akshay, we will definitely keep that question in mind and answer it in an elaborate manner. It's a very contentious question and has to be answered only in a detailed format. One cannot give a quick fix answer to this slightly complex question, I must say. So with that, I would like to thank all of you for having joined. I know some of you faced bandwidth challenges thanks to the storm which happened in Bangalore, but look forward to seeing you in subsequent workshop. Thanks to all the volunteers of Madhwacharya for the youth for having patiently put up this program, which is sometimes can get a little challenging because of the fact that we are all working remote right now. So, with those words, I would like to close this workshop and look forward to having you in the subsequent uh, workshops. Thank you so much, and Krishna Arpanamastu. Thank you.